Welcome to CPG Vibes. No script, just chat. We talk all things food and beverage and so much more. Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review. If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service or be a guest, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Now your hosts, me, Alex Bear with Genius Juice, and Wade Yenny. Hello. Welcome to episode 102 of CPG Vibes. No script, just chat. A lot of chatting here, some chatting over there. I chat more, I blab. This is an example of that. How's everyone doing today? Hope you're doing well. Make sure to do a comment. We'll shout you out. I wanted to give one really big shout out to Tenzo T for the hoodie that he sent me. Finally, I got a hoodie, got it about a month ago. Love it. So thank you, Steve Odell, for getting me that hoodie. Wade, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. We had a little technical difficulties, but we recovered fashionably late, I'd say.
Hey, you know, it's you were kind of in LA, San Diego, LA-ish, so it's good to be fashionably late sometimes. Yeah, glitches happen. We've had our share of glitches with StreamYard. You know that. We've had episodes that have never aired because of StreamYard. But here we are. Here we are. We made it. So we're, StreamYard stock. Make sure not to invest if they ever go public. All right. So just some laundry list items to go over. We were getting a flurry of sponsors, which is awesome. Wade and I are very grateful for that. So we have some sponsors coming up throughout the month of February, which is great. And also going into March. We're also planning a new segment. We're going to be doing a pitch slam type event here on CPG Vibes that's going to be planned for the spring of this year, 2024. So we're really excited about that. And we'll have an application portal for brands to become part of that pitch slam and more details to come on the panel and all that good stuff. So as far as sponsorship, CPG Vibes 100@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest, we are bringing on a couple guests this year. Maybe somewhere less than 10, but more than one, somewhere between there. So if you think you got what it takes to be a guest, we become a lot more selective this year, given that we have a lot of other programs happening. Again, make sure to email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Shall we go to some comments here, Wade?
Well, what about this one, Alex?
I like that one. 5 stars, right?
Yes.
Oh, so we got some pretty big news here. It's guardedly good news. Have you checked our ratings today?
I have.
So I want to make the big, at least forward progress announcement regarding our ratings and where we're at on Apple Podcast.
Yeah, do that. I'm getting the link for Spotify up just so we cover all our bases here.
Okay, I can go ahead and roll into that.
Do it.
So we were at about 125. We were at 125 last week. We are now at 149. So we got 24 reviews in the last week, and we're super grateful to the community for doing that. And so once we get past 170, we'll be ranked as the number 1 rated CPG podcast in the country.
Yeah, and we always talk about how easy this is, Alex. So you have your phone, your partner's phone, spouse, child, grandmothers, cousins, next door neighbors, newspaper boy. You grab their phone, go to Apple Podcasts. That's the easiest. That's where most of the ratings are. Go to Apple Podcasts, search for CPG Vibes, go to the stars. All you have to do is just hit that, and that's it. It doesn't cost anything. It just helps us with the search algorithms, and as Alex mentioned, it elevates us up the charts, which opens up a lot more exposure for the show, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. I threw the link in there for Spotify if that's your weapon of choice as well, but Apple Podcasts is kind of where we are. We're charting the best. So if you could help us out with that, call your neighbors, friends, and have them do the same. Be much appreciated.
Absolutely. It's very simple, and make sure to hop on there. So I think even Android users, you have to download the Apple Podcast app, I believe.
Or I don't think you necessarily have to download the app as long as you have an Apple account, which again is free. I think you can do it via a browser as well. I think.
Okay, so, you just go into that link that you posted.
Yep.
Have an Apple account. Boom, you can leave a review. So good stuff there. Make sure to do that. And we have Spotify as well. But Apple Podcast, that's really the key focus. But there's a Spotify account as well. So we have. Let's go to some comments here. We have a flurry of comments, and again, we just want to thank the community for signing up for sponsorships, for giving us 5 stars, helping us get to nearly 150, and on our way to being the #1 podcast for CPG. So thank you. We also got some great items in the mail. I got items from Halva, right? They're our sponsor last week. And then also, we have to give accolades to V Driven, right? They're our ongoing sponsor. And then I saw Luke Abbott here, knock, knock. He's probably in a plane somewhere, and he's paid the $15.99 to get his Wi-Fi on, United Airlines or something. But so Luke Abbott is the man. He's the CEO and founder of V Driven. They are ongoing sponsor. You can go to vdriven.com. They help CPG brands emerging. It could be a startup. It could be an idea. It could be emerging. It could be more mature. And they help you with sales, with chargeback management and deduction management, accounting. They do accounting for you and bookkeeping. So they run the gamut from A to Z to help a CPG brand, and it's all a la carte. You add whatever you need, and they can offer it to you at a very affordable rate. I think that was pretty good as far as a summary of V Driven.
Absolutely. And I had the pleasure of seeing Luke in person this week. He was in the neck of the woods, so we grabbed a bite to eat. And
what'd you guys eat?
We had
Beyond Meat. I'm just kidding.
Did not have Beyond Meat. We had I had oysters, scallops. What did Luke? I think Luke had lamb, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh.
Yeah. So,
okay.
We were
Lamb
all over
Luke.
the board. Lamb Luke.
That's his new nickname.
We were all over the board. We had a little bit of everything. So it was just great to see him and catch up in person. So in case anyone was wondering, yes, they are our ongoing sponsor, but Luke does get around. He's real. He has connections. He's a traveling man and knocking on a lot of doors and doing a lot of things. So a great person to be connected with. And as Alex mentioned, they offer a plethora of services to emerging brands and can help you in a number of ways. So I encourage you to connect with them here. If you haven't already, reach out to them. Just a very valuable person to have in your tool chest for sure.
Absolutely. We have Luis Alberto. Happy Friday, everyone. Luis, good to see you. Rich Monez. Okay. I got
Rich Industries. Rich Insights.
Yep. So I got my Yeti over here. For those that are not watching, it's a huge 1,000 milliliter, whatever this is. The thing is a beast. This could, satisfy probably 4 people that are drinking from it. And but I go through about 2 of these a day because I'm just on the go all the time and talking. So I need a lot of water. So, and I also put my mud water in there as well. Hint for a later episode. So what else? We have Gavin Conkle, greeting from the Mojo Dojo, Casa Gym. You got wax on, wax off, right? You're doing all that, Gavin, right? He's in our generation, so he knows what that is. If you say that to like someone, if I go to Santa Monica, and we're walking on 3rd Street, and I say that to a 20-year-old, like wax on, wax off, they'll be like looking at me like I have 5 heads. Like, what the hell is that? It's crazy. Okay, so I was at an event, and there was a guy that I thought was in his 30s. Okay, just mature. And so we were talking, and we were talking about Apollo 13 because the moon, there's a full moon, right? And like, man, this reminds me of Apollo 13. I'm like, great movie, right? He's like looking at me like, what's that about? I'm like, really? You haven't seen the movie? You don't know the event, what happened? And he's like, dude, I'm 23. I was born in the year 2000. And like, because the movie came out, I think in 95 or something. Right. With Tom Hanks and Bill Paxton. And so, yeah, so like, it reminds me that I'm like, I'm getting older. Like I used to be the young one, Anyway, moving on. So we have Wyatt Risser, if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Happy Friday all. So those are some shout outs. Again, we'll shout you out. It's live. And we're obviously here to help. And, if you send us product, we'll promote it as well. So some news, Wade, some news that hit the wire here. Runa, bought by Vita Coco, I think about 4 years ago, discontinued. So the energy drink Runa they were the pioneers. They used Goyasa, one of the first, I think Goyaki, and then Runa using the Goyasa leaf for energy, discontinued. Also, there's a lawsuit against Instacart. It's kind of a little bit sketchy on the details right now, but from what I understand, the lawsuit is a class action from investors that Instacart overclaimed or overstated their value and also overstated their competitive edge versus Postmates and DoorDash. Because no pun intended, DoorDash and Postmates are just having their lunch, like they're just integrated right into, and then Uber Eats and all these.
Right.
So they're really taking a lot of market share away from Instacart. Have you used Instacart before?
Like for your own? Personally, I have not. I've used DoorDash for dining purposes.
Like that example, yes. Right?
Yes. Well, no. I mean, honestly, I'm old school in that regard because, it's kind of a love-hate thing for me. It was kind of an ongoing joke with Renee and I as far as grocery shopping went. Because doing what I do as much as I do it, I'm not even going to state how many hours a week. Just a lot, right? The last thing I used to want to do is to go into stores, and do the shopping, right?
Right.
But now I've matured with old age, and I can enjoy. I still don't like to spend long amounts of time because I don't know. I start to get like, especially if it's one of the stores that that I work for. I start to look at operations and get really frustrated. But I enjoy the competitive shops and things like that. So have not used Instacart, have used DoorDash for restaurants, have used Uber Eats for restaurants.
Yeah.
But for the most part, anywhere we've been, there's been a grocery store within 5-10 minutes of it. It's just hard for me to justify that, that extra piece of it. And there's something to be said, being that old school is picking your own produce. If you're, I know you're not a meat guy, but picking your own stuff, I'm still kind of, a little bit,
someone else's hands touching an apple or whatever.
And plus, a lot of times, again, depending on where I'm at, I'm usually in one of the stores, and everywhere I've been 2 or 3 times a week. So it's very simple just to pick things up. So it's, it's hard to justify an extra trip on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way where during the pandemic, it was a different story, right? And that's why the value of Instacart went up so high, just like all these other tech companies, right? But I think they've lost so much value because like people like to go out to grocery stores. It's an experience, it's an experience, not labor, right? And not laborious, not meticulous. I enjoy going to, Sprouts, Whole Foods, Lazy Acres, Erewhon, all these places that are in Southern California. I even like going to Vons. Like Vons has really stepped up what they're doing now, right? And they've built out their produce section. It looks beautiful, and pavilions. It looks great. Right. So I did use Instacart twice. And it was in December 2021 when I got COVID. A whole family got COVID, and it was like really rainy. I'm like, okay, it's rainy. I have COVID, let me order Instacart. And I only ordered 5 things, just gotta have it stuff. I wanted a certain brand of kombucha, and I wanted like, Nellie's, the chocolate bar, Nellie's. I wanted like some treats. I wanted some kombucha. And I ordered it, and then I get a message in Instacart saying like, your selection is not available. Do you want us to get something else? And it showed a screenshot of the shelf. I'm like, okay. And I'm looking at the picture. I'm messaging the person, and they're like, the blackberry flavor is out. Do you want the mango one? I'm like, well, okay, no. And if I was out, I would just go to another store down the street and find that flavor. But I can't do that because I'm at home. And then I get another message, okay, that's over. I'm not getting my kombucha. Then I get another message. Oh, Nellie's is sold out for this flavor. I'm like, man. And then it's just a lot of back and forth.
Right.
And then the person brought it, and I live in a complex. I don't have a single family home in California because no one can afford that, right? And I had to go outside and meet them on the street to get the bag from them, and then I left the tip. So I never used it again, needless to say. I think there is a service for it and there's a use for it, but not for me. I think it's for people that might have difficulty going to stores. Maybe they're, older, or who knows, right? They don't want to go out and drive to a store. But for someone like me or you, we're active. We're going out there and we're going to go to a store.
Yeah, and I think from what I see and what I know, it's still certainly overall that e-commerce piece is still a growing scope of business. And I think, you mentioned people like us that are out and about, but there's certainly convenience aspect that some people prefer, and it works. I go down the road of when you're talking about the shopping aspect, and I've witnessed it firsthand, probably more so when I was in California than I have since. But it was during the height of COVID when there was so much of that going on. You'd see the shoppers, and some of these guys that work for Instagram, they're obviously they're professionals, they're getting paid, but they're doing 2 and 3 orders at a time, and it was very common for them to try and grab one of the employees and say, "Hey, can you help me find?" It was almost like they wanted you to do the shopping for them, because especially when you're in the specialty natural organic, you're not looking for Cheerios and Doritos, you're looking for coconut oil and just things that maybe they're not used to finding in stores. They're not familiar with.
They don't shop at Sprouts,
Yes,
they shop at
yeah. So they're trying to find
Food for Less or something.
all these things, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges we see now is that it's very easy to say, oh, they didn't have it. Do you want something else? And they can find, as opposed to either trying to find the item or finding someone to help you find the item. So I think
exactly.
It's a difficult situation there.
Yeah, they're in the rush. They have several different orders. I mean, these people are in such a rush that I've seen people where they don't have time to take the phone out of their pocket. So they have kind of this Bob Dylan thing where it goes around their neck and the phone is in front of them and they're just like selecting things or speaking into the phone. And it is a problem. Yeah, it's kind of a laziness thing. So, So anyway, some other also updates as well is June Shine. So they got an investment, and it's labeled as, and June Shine, for those that don't know them, I think everyone on here knows them, is a hard kombucha. And also they have a mocktail line as well. They received a seven figure. So you do the math on that. It's in the below 10 million, but above $1 million investment from private equity firm Invest Bev. So there you go. So there's some money still flowing, but it's really to the larger brands in hot growing categories, either the non-alc categories or the hard kombucha categories. So there you go. So there's some news for you. Wanted to switch gears. And by the way, we have some more comments. There's a lot of comments coming in, so I'd like to get back to those. And then we do want to talk about 2 main topics today. This is kind of a partial script, but we're still just going to chat. Crowdfunding. I'm here to help with crowdfunding and answer questions if you guys are considering it, or if you just want to chat about it in the box, in the comments. And then Wade, we can go through some category review stuff. So again, if we get to all of it, we'll get to it. If we don't, we don't. But let's go through some of the comments here. So Allison Clay, we have a Liblix. That's a new chain I've never heard of. Every half mile, it seems. I never use Instacart. I thought it was like a combination of Publix and Loblaws, in Canada. Liblix. So she meant Publix because she lives in Florida. Every half mile. I never use Instacart or any food deliveries. Damn autocorrect. Yeah. She said, dang, auto. Come on, just say damn. I say the F word on the show. You can say damn. We have Luke Abbott. I love going to stores like Lazy Acres, Whole Foods, Jimbo's, and Sprouts for the product discovery aspect. I love trying new products. That's the other thing too is, if you're an emerging brand, you lose when people are ordering on Instacart because they're like very like, this is what I want. I'm searching for what I want. Instacart does have an ad program, but what I discovered, because I participate in that ad program, is that typically people search for what they want. They're not discovering new items on Instacart on a website. You got to be in the store, see it on the shelf, pick it up, and look at the label. That's how you're going to discover. You're just going to walk by it and discover it, right?
Right.
Dima Moraru with Guru Energy. They have massive orders from mass merch, Costco. I think where Instacart is winning to me is like Costco, because that's more just buy these big things, and no one wants. Costco is so hard to get in and out of. But it's interesting, not to reopen the chapter in this way, but I don't see Instacart people in stores anymore, like with the lanyards. I just don't see it as much. But what I do see is Amazon, like in Whole Foods, Amazon
Right.
Prime, because they're integrated, right? It's integrated. People go on Amazon.com and they order something. That's Amazon Fresh. And then you go to Whole Foods, Amazon people are there. So I think that system is working really well because Amazon built it out over many years with a partnership with Whole Foods. So they're hand in hand, and it works. Namik Sultan never used Instacart cart. To be honest, going to the supermarket in person is a form of therapy and discovering new products. I agree. And Kenny, I think he said a funny comment earlier. I'll read, but he said on this one, I'm a guy that truly enjoys going to the grocery store. Steph Huey, happy Friday. And Mela is raising money. So this is another thing we'll talk about, our crowdfunding and raising money and stuff. So yeah, so I don't know. You guys can ask questions. Again, we're not going to belabor the topic, but there's a lot of new campaigns that are launching on WeFunder. There's also some launching on Start Engine. I consult brands that are on both of those platforms and on Republic. But if you guys want to talk more about crowdfunding, I mean, just shoot a comment in there. But essentially, money has dried up, and it's a way to raise money, online. The challenges with it is you have to like approach 500 people and make a lot of calls, a lot of texts. So it's a lot of work. I don't know, Wade, have you ever been on a crowdfunding site? Have you ever personally invested in crowdfunding or no?
No, I haven't. I've done, it's a fine line in my current role with,
Right.
well, most of the roles I've had from a conflict of interest, and
Right.
I don't want to, anybody to think that I'm showing being partial or
Right.
impartial, whatever you want to say, and I've certainly done GoFundMe's and Kickstarters and things like that. But as far as investing in a brand, I've not done that.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is I definitely hear you on that, where it could be a conflict of interest. But yeah, no, I think the biggest thing on is that you can actually get a lot of, if you're D2C, right? If you're a D2C brand, investors that invest in you online are likely to follow through and become a customer. And we did that with Genius Juice. We 3,000 new investors, we put them on a list, and then we would email them saying investor only deal, right? Like investor drop. You get the new the new vanilla cinnamon flavor. It's available to you first online and no one else. Or you get a discount, if you order as an investor, and here's your code. So I call them investors that are become customers. I think that's a great feature of it. And it's crazy. Like, Painterland Sisters closed I advised them. They closed their campaign on January 31st. They oversubscribed. They raised $1.3 million. And they literally had to reject people's investments. People were still trying to invest, and they capped it. And I think, like, if I had to share anything in wisdom about why they were successful, a great team, but what they really did was they built a story. They reached out to a lot of people. They were just hustlers. I mean, the sisters, Stephanie and Haley, they just reached out to anyone and everyone, but they especially reached out to their tribe, people that are farmers, people that were in Pennsylvania, people that are cheering them on in a rural or local area because they have their own farm in Pennsylvania. We've talked about that on their show. So like that to me is the recipe for a brand to be successful is, great brand, great people, they're hustlers. They just go out there and grind away over several months talking with many, many, many people, and they never give up, and they dig deep on the people that really care about them most. And they're I think the largest CPG raise on WeFunder in the last. I haven't seen anything over 1 million for CPG on there in a while, maybe 6 months or 12 months. So congrats to them. But the other common question is, which platform do I go on, right? And my job is to be more impartial about it. And again, I know, this is not your area of expertise, so I'm just kind of lightly talking about the high levels of all this. But like WeFunder, I think is great for CPG brands. Republic also has some CPG in there, but they're more biotech now and crypto. So Republic to me is good, but I think WeFunder has a little more awareness around CPG brands on their platform. And then Start Engine is just marketing the hell out of themselves. So a lot of people go to Start Engine. They have the most investors. They raise, I think, the most on average per campaign across the platform. And CPG has done well in the past with Start Engine. Start Engine, though, is a larger organization. So I think it takes more time, right, to set things up and get things done with them. That's what I've noticed. But they still have a great team, and I'm a power partner of all three of these crowdfunding platforms. And then the question is, what structure do we use? Most emerging brands use convertible note or safe notes, right? And they don't do equity. So these are all things to really consider. And then usually by the time you raise money on crowdfunding, it takes 6 months. So anyway, I'm not going to blab about this, but if anyone has questions about crowdfunding, just shoot us a comment. And then, I think like we're getting into category review season, and like, just sitting down with someone, like you were a category manager in the past with Jimbo's. I know we've talked about this, but advice on like, what do they say in these meetings to you? Like, how can they get your attention with you meeting with 30 different people and increase the chances of being approved? So these are all things that I'm wondering about, and maybe you can share some about that.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this a number of times. I think, the first step is to choose your targets wisely. Go fish where the fish are, and where your brand, where your products make the most sense. If you're trying to sell, going extreme, things that aren't fitting of the retailer that you're going into. I'm again making something up. I don't know, if you're trying to sell Doritos to Sprouts, it's just a waste of time, and I mention this all the time, that I can say at least 2, maybe 3 times in the last week, I've had people reach out to me for categories that we're not in. And it's just like, it's a complete waste of time. And I understand. I think for me, that's the equivalent of cold calling, or just, telemarketing, if you will. It's just, just throwing as much as you can up against the wall. But I think number one, know where you want to go, right? And make sure that your brand is a good fit there. Number two, hopefully you have some kind of connection to that retailer, whether it's your broker, whether it's a peer in the space, or a brand that that can help facilitate an introduction, so that you have a better chance of landing a meeting. I mean, because realistically, especially when you look at larger categories, it's just not possible to meet with every brand that submits product. So that's when I go back to, if you are sending samples, first of all, make sure they want the samples, which is a big miss. If you're packing samples, shipping samples, and they haven't been requested and or approved, odds are they're going to end up in someone's hands that is not going to blink an eye about your product. Meaning, if we get unsolicited samples, they're going to end up in a common area for people from accounting, marketing, operations, human resources. Anybody can grab them, and that's maybe that's nice. It gets your product in someone's hands, but it's not going to be in a decision maker's hands. So I think that's a very important part, to make sure samples are approved that the retailer wants them, and
I have
you
a
send them.
question. I have a
Yeah,
question, by the way,
yeah.
to cut in, because this is relates to samples. And, again, the beauty of the show is that I'm on the brand side. Wade is on more of the buying, overseeing the store level. So, I've had times where I email a buyer and I say, "Hey, I know it's coming up. You're reviewing this item. Here it is. Here's what it is. Here's a screenshot of it, image." And then they respond saying, "Oh yeah, no, this looks interesting. Send me some samples." And I send and I email back, "Okay, sample sent, tracking information," and no reply. And then I know the product got there. I wait a few days, send another email. "Did you get the product? Do you try the product?" No reply. And then I do a follow up in 2 weeks. No reply. So I'm like, they said they are interested and they wanted the samples, and now they're there, and now I'm not getting anything, and it's like crickets. What do you do there? Do you just give up and say, "I don't want to bother this person," and you wait till the next go around? Or what strategies are there to get through that?
Well, I go to our friend Matt Cotton with Rooted Sales, and being pleasantly persistent, and Alex, I'll be the first to admit, if I were to show you my inbox for work and my inbox for LinkedIn, it's almost like I need an assistant just to answer everything, and I do my best, I really do, but in the course of normal operation and just trying to keep your head above water with regular regular work, it's very difficult to give a personal response back to everyone that reaches out. And I do my damnedest, but I have to admit, over the last few weeks especially, it's whether I've been just inundated with work, or just the combination of the amount of, and now I'm starting to get people emailing my personal email too, and it's like, just
Man.
trying to juggle
Mm.
normal business. It's tough. So I think it's being pleasantly persistent
Hmm.
without being annoying. You don't want to be that person that comes back and says, uh, I don't know, just being almost, that's the word I'm looking for, antagonistic with, like, since you didn't respond, I'm reaching out a final time, and those kind of words that, that really, you're kind of pushing the button, like saying, "Hey, you're just poking the bear by saying, oh, since you
Hmm.
didn't respond second time, third time," or, you want to be cognizant that you're not the only brand that the buyer's talking to. They more than likely are slammed for whatever reason, and not making excuses, but it's the reality of what's going on. So I think, like every 3 to 4 weeks, maybe checking in if you haven't got a response back, and just keep after it. I think that's the best advice I can give. Sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yep.
I certainly wouldn't just, okay, I sent the samples, I'll wait for them to contact me. That's not a good solution.
Yeah.
It's a combination of being aggressive but not overly aggressive, and I know that's very vague and gray, but it's the best advice I can give, because again, there's people who I'm very well acquainted with, and consider friends, who I haven't been able to get back to, just based on the amount of stuff that I have going on right now. So I
Yeah.
think there's that understanding that this is one portion, category review, new items, things like that, is just one thing that a category manager does. There's a lot of other hats they wear on a daily basis, and the quicker you understand that, the more the more empathetic you can be to that situation, the better off you'll
Hmm.
be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a balancing act. And I've learned, like, in how you say things and what you say and how you say it, even if it's in an email, the phrasing of it is really important. And, like, there's times, like, you've had these experiences, right, Wade, where, like, in a
Mhm.
conversation, which is not the best conversation, and that if someone says something in a certain way or you say something, it's unproductive. And then the walls come up and nothing gets done. And there's emotions, right? And it kind of could get out of control. So learning that, in, like, your example, let me put a real world example in place. like, this is my last email. And then I'm just gonna, like, that is not, that's just unproductive. Like, it's emotional. Like, the entrepreneur or the person pitching it is upset and hurt. And this is their way of being like, I'm just going to vent this in an email to the buyer saying, you're missing out on something great and you're making a mistake not reviewing my item. And even if you're right, like, even if the entrepreneur is right, like, it is a mistake to not review it. It's not a mistake. It's just limited resources and not right timing. And it goes back to what you said, is being very empathetic to the category manager, the buyer, the owner, whoever's making that decision, where, yeah, you might have a great item and it belongs in that store, right? And it could sell really well in that store and have great velocity, but there's a condition. There's, the timing is off. There's a condition. There's a new store opening, or the buyer is dealing with resets, or there's all these new items coming in already and they're maxed out bandwidth wise. There's 1,000 different examples. And I've learned in sales, there's two reasons why someone says no. One is a stall, and one is either it's a stall or it's a condition. A stall is they're just stalling you and they have no reason to do it. And they're not being good. They're not being pleasant people. They're just like, I'll do it later. They're just whatever. They shrug it off.
Well, and I would say I'd throw one more thing in there. Could be buying themselves more time because they're not ready to make a decision yet.
Exactly. Which is a condition, So that's the second one. So stall to me is not a legitimate reason. It's just people do it because it's sales and it happens. Category managers do it less. I think more independence, like, just, I'll review later. I don't have time.
Yeah.
But when it comes to more corporate and more organized review schedules, it's typically like 95% of the time, it's a condition. They already have 10 of your product, different brands, and yours is not differentiated enough, or a new store is opening, or whatever, bandwidth, or things that you said, need more time. I need a bigger runway to review this. So the other mistake that entrepreneurs make is we take things personally because it's our product, it's our baby. Don't take it personally, because it's not a personal attack on you or your brand or your product. It's typically a condition. And the more that you know that, and the more that you absorb that's what's happening, you are going to approach the situation in a much more calm, non-emotional way, in a very logical way that's not going to offend the buyer or whoever you're presenting to. So these are all, but believe me, Wade, I've learned from this, because there have been times where I've gotten frustrated at a buyer, where, like, they said they're going to bring it in and it's been like a year and they still haven't brought it in, and there's no email response, there's no communication. But whenever I resort to saying, this is fucked up and I don't like this, like getting really angry about it, or making them feel guilty about it, it's never productive. It's better to be understanding, to say, I understand what's happening and I'll roll with it, because that's the nature of the beast. That's how this works sometimes, is things come up and they don't get around to your product, albeit how great even if your product's great.
Well, I've got two examples that I'll give you real quick that have hit me in the last week, and I want to touch on what Kenny says here and maybe expand on that a little bit. So, one of the things not to do is, again, I say being passive aggressive or antagonistic. I've got one here that says, "Did you happen to look at my previous message?" Because I didn't respond to the previous message.
I hate that one.
And so, did you happen to look at it? And number one, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But by you saying that, it's kind of implying that I didn't look at it or something. So don't do that. And number two, the person that starts a chain, let's say they started in August, they reached out, which, mind you, this is a cold call, reach out, email. I wanted to see if you're interested in blah, blah, blah. No response, because I'm not interested. And the other thing to remember is that, and I'm speaking for me, but I'm using this myself as an example, is that I am not, while I am a decision maker, my category managers are the decision makers, right? I am there to support them, obviously, and help lead them. But if you reach out to me, I'm going to turn your product over, your brand over, to the appropriate category manager. And I'm going to say, so-and-so reached out to me on LinkedIn. I know so-and-so, something like that. I'm not going to say, put this in the store, okay? So the guy or gal that emails me and says, I wanted to see if you're interested in, number one, I'm not the person that's going to be interested in. It's going to be my category manager. Number two, that same person 3-4 weeks later forwards the first email. Hey, I wanted to see if you're interested. It's the same email, and I can put a screenshot up here. At this point, it's 3 or 4 times they followed up on a product. Again, I'm not the right person. Obviously, I'm not interested because I haven't replied to you, but it keeps coming, keeps coming, keeps coming. So just things not to do. But I did want to go back to what Kenny here had said here, and that first comment. So he said to go through the proper channels. I've had several brands reach out. Hey, I see you used to work at retailer X. Could you please provide me with the contact of the buyer?
So
He's
bad.
recommended not doing that out of respect to both individuals.
Right.
And I wanted to take that a step further. And also, when going through proper channels ideally isn't going around your category manager, meaning the example I just gave. Okay, I've got a team of outstanding category managers, and I'll preach that till the cows come home. If you're coming to me trying to get around them, again, I'm just going to give it back to them. And number two, from a category manager's perspective, the last thing they want is their supervisor coming to them and say, hey, look, have you seen this brand or what have, because they own their business. They manage their categories and ideally they're doing a great job. So by you going around them because, they haven't responded to you or something like that, typically doesn't sit well with people. It's kind of like, put yourself in the shoes of any job you've been in. You want to do things your way, and you don't like it when people go to your boss and say, hey, so-and-so this, so-and-so that. It's not a good way to go about business. Not ideal by any means. So I don't know if you've had any experience with that, good, bad, or otherwise, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I haven't. But
hey, I get hustling and trying to.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Cards,
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
because you're right, for sure, right? I said that kind of facetiously, but like, especially when you're younger and you're just aggressive and you're like going after everything, you're like, I need to get into stores, I need to build revenue. I think probably, I think the one thing that I remember doing once, it didn't really backfire, it didn't like stop us from getting into the store, but it probably delayed it. Was a chain that has, I think you know where I'm going with this. They have two different stores. Like one owns the other one, right?
Yep.
So there's Albertsons and Pavilions. There's HEB and Central Market. There's Bristol Farms and Lazy Acres, right? And so if you're in one of them, it doesn't mean that you're just gonna on a silver platter, be given the other one, right? And so like if you're in retailer A, and you're talking and you're in there for a year and it's going great there, telling the category manager retailer A, and let me back up. You want to get into retailer B now, and retailer A owns retailer B. You talk to the category manager of retailer A and say, hey, can you tell the manager, the category manager, how great the product is and refer me over there? That typically backfires because now you can't reach that category manager you want to get into their store. So now you're going to their counterpart and you're telling the counterpart to go to them to tell them how great you are so you can get in and get a meeting.
Right. Yeah.
So it's actually backfires on 2 levels. Number one, the place you want to get into that rubs them the wrong way typically. And then B, you're also putting extra work on the manager, that the person that already brought you in and has done so much for you already. So there are exceptions to this rule if there's a great relationship. The only exception where this could ever happen, okay, is if I'm at a trade show and they're both together. Yeah, that's it. Like, and I'll be like, hey, and
sure,
it's going well in the store, great, and great to meet you, and it's going well with them, and we'd love to be in your store, and like that's the only time I would ever pull that ace out of my sleeve. But that's about it. Anything else by email, by phone, asking favors like that, it's like the kiss of death.
It's a fine line. And Kenny has a follow-up, and I want to get at the other comment here, which is some great back and forth here going on, and this is what we're here for. Kenny said, he as much as he loves, and anyone that knows Kenny Hausman is not going to question his love for the community. But he's in a similar situation as me, that his category management team makes a decision, and as their leader, he empowers them to do so, much like I do. But they own the business, and circumventing never sits well with him. The follow-up comment that I think is really good, and I'm looking on my phone here because it says LinkedIn user, but it's from
I'll
Mitch.
find that. Yep.
It's from Mitch Bernstein, who is the CEO at NYC Press Juice Ventures.
Yep.
He says, sensible thoughts. However, I suggest learning to instinctively perceive the contact person's engagement and vitality expressed in their work. Often the correct person is disengaged with the employer or workplace dynamic. We are often very effective when we realize those team members whom are organically engaged, even Jazz, never asked to circumvent the lead person, but enthusiasm for our products is contagious. That's great stuff. It's a fine line, Mitch, and I think you expressed that well. There's nothing wrong with having some friendly, back and forth and getting some enthusiasm from people, like a Kenny, like a Wade, that are. But that's certainly not. I don't feel what Kenny was addressing, nor myself is. I'm talking about deliberately going around the person because either you have a relationship with their supervisor or because you feel that you can go straight to the top. For that matter, we've had people reach out, cold call to our CEO. It's just things that sometimes people do, and it's a slippery slope. So I think Stephanie had a comment here as well. That she's had brands that she's unfamiliar with that have not engaged with spontaneously approach me for contact details for a category buyer, and she usually refers the interested brand to review the link from Whole Foods expectations for new brands, which is obviously that's the first place to start anywhere as you're doing your research of where you want to put your product is go to that website, and those larger companies typically have right on their website how to become a vendor or how to submit products or something like that. It's usually on that first page, and you can get that way. So
and I 100%, and I definitely hear Mitch's comment because he's on my side of the aisle, right? Just on the brand side, and I've seen his posts on LinkedIn as well. He's very passionate about what he does, and it's very mission oriented to improve people's health, one bottle at a time, right? With his fresh pressed juice. So, but there is that side to it where you present it, or at least reach out to a category manager that you can just tell, even though the item could do really good there, they just don't like. It's hard to really explain this, but they're not into the item or the branding or something about it,
right,
turns them off. And a little bit of that emotion kind of gets into it, right? Because ultimately there's a lot of data, but all decisions, that are made by data are backed by emotion. Like emotion pushes it through from the 1 yard line to a field goal and actually getting on the shelf. So from a brand standpoint and perspective, when the category manager is not getting enthusiastic about your product, and it could be a great product for their store, or at least data wise it looks pretty good, that part is hard to overcome. And that's the part that I see what he's talking about is sometimes you got to find an inner cheerleader that loves your product, and through that maybe they can percolate it and get people behind it in the office, and eventually it makes it back to the category manager's desk, and they're like, oh, you know what, my team loved your product. I'm not a big fan of beet juice, but hell, everyone loves it here, so let me give it a shot. So I think there is, again, it's a fine line, and you have to read every situation, and it's all case by case. There could be times that's great to do. There could be times where that could blow up in your face. It also depends on the organization and how they run their category reviews and how flexible they are. So these are all factors to think about.
So I before we close that up, I would just say one more thing that no matter the business you're in, no one likes being told no. And you as a brand, we talked about this before, but you as a brand founder, salesperson, whatever, you should believe in your product, and it should be, you should be irritated, upset, disappointed, whatever you want to say, if you get a no and you get declined. But the analogy that I would use is that if you're a parent, and Alex, you are one, and you haven't experienced this yet, but hopefully, I'm sure you will in the coming years to come. But as your child gets involved in competitive activities, whether it's gymnastics, cheerleading, sports, band, what have you, you always think that your kid's the best, right? Your kid's the best, and they deserve to start on the team, and they deserve the first chair in band, and they deserve to be, to get all the playing time, all these different things. But at the end of the day, there's a coach that's responsible for making those decisions. And unfortunately, they may not have that same impression. So it's just kind of that back and forth where a category manager is kind of like the coach, and they have to make the decisions on what they feel is best for their category. And you're the parent that wants your kid to start and be the MVP and all those things. And in your mind, they're the best player, might not necessarily be reality. So just that's something that I throw out there. So good stuff, good dialogue.
Good metaphor. Yeah. Yep. I'm just, as long as my son gets good at golf, I'm cool with that. And
there you go.
Yeah, and as long as he starts driving it further than me, just like what Charlie Woods did to Tiger Woods, I'll be a very proud parent. I'll be proud regardless. So let's go to our next segment, which is stuff we love. We're skipping out on a sponsor for this week because we really wanted to focus on the segment and the questions. We spent a majority of the time for that. And then we're also going to, at the very end, mention our ongoing sponsor, V-Driven. But let's put that on the side burner for right now and go into stuff we love. I've been drinking it for almost the entire episode, so you know what I love. Did you catch what it was? I'm sure you did.
Well, you had Rich's bottle up there, so I didn't see. That's the only thing I've seen you drink.
The can I've been holding up like 10 times.
I did not notice the can. Well, I'm multitasking here. Olipop. Yeah. I was going to say, you're probably taking that drink as I'm looking at one of the other screens here. But,
yeah, right. That makes sense. Yeah. That's where you got to get. This is why we need sponsorships, right? Because Wade needs an external monitor.
He's what's funny though, Alex?
Back and forth.
I do actually have one right here. Okay. But I purposely for the show turn it off because the camera is here and I'm constantly looking over here. So I'm trying to do all my multitasking here, but in doing so, I'm looking at a different tab and the screen isn't active. So yeah,
we get to see all parts of your beautiful face. The side, the front. I think because I do it too. I kind of look this way. I'm not just posing. So cool. All right. Well, sponsor us anyway, even though you already have an external monitor. So mine is Olipop. Whole Foods is carrying, I think, 340 of their flavors now. And Sprouts carries a bunch, but their classic grape, which was, I think, part of their second wave, not their very first line, their second wave, is excellent and just so well formulated. And then obviously I have the Rising Tide Kevin Weatherall.
Good stuff.
Focus creamer. You know how to do it, how to mix it up right, man. Like you get hot water, mud water, focus creamer, some Manuka honey, mix that thing together. You got yourself a delicious chocolate latte and some almond milk in there. So that's mine.
Good stuff. Well, I'm going to tag at least I'm trying to. Let me see.
I'll post Rising Tide, and Olipop doesn't need to be posted because everyone knows that brand.
Yeah, so this one, and this is just another example of supporting brands, right? So mine is our friends at Danos. I don't think I've shown this before because I just bought this. I was gonna say that this was their newest product. However, they just released a new seafood one, but this is
seafood. Yeah,
this is their second newest one, which is the Primo, and it's got great stuff. It's got black sea salt, it's got black garlic, it's got my eyes are not helping. Black cumin seeds, just fantastic stuff, especially on beef. But I bought this myself on Amazon and had it delivered last week. I think I got it Thursday last week, and I didn't break it out for the show last week. But big Danos fan. I've got all the flavors, pretty much all the flavors in my cupboard right now. I've got the seasoning in there. I've got the regular. I've got the hot. I've got the Primo, and they just released the seafood one. So big fan of Danos and the work that they do there. So
100%.
Tyler and Dan, that episode was great as well. If you didn't get to see that one, I definitely recommend checking that out.
Definitely. What's the one with the green cap? It's like
that's original. That's
all-purpose original.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I love that one. That one's amazing. And then there's a red one, which is a hot one, I think. And Yeah, they're a ball of energy, man. I mean, we've had them on the show last year. They were cooking for us live in their studio. We've never had that happen before. But if you go to any show, especially Expo West or Fancy Food, you know they're there. That's all I need to say. You know they're there.
Well, and what I would say too is the story, going back and listening to the story of how they got to, Tyler's story is fantastic. Dan's story is fantastic. Just talk about, starting from the bottom and making it to where they are. It's just a great story and great guys. So yeah, good
100%,
stuff.
100%. All right, well, that is stuff we love here, and let's just to rehash also our sponsor, ongoing sponsor, which is V Driven. So Luke Abbott, CEO and founder of V Driven, and again, this is off the cuff. I like to speak from the heart. Great partners when it comes to CPG. They help you in building your brand. They help you with marketing, sales. They connect you with different buyers because Luke, he flies all over the country. He just met with Wade, right? He went from anywhere from, Northern California to New York to Florida to Texas. He's all over. He spends probably half of his time just building relationships with category managers. So he also, V Driven helps with deduction management. There's this lawsuit, right, against a large notable distributor. These things are happening, right, where there's chargebacks, and we need to fight these chargebacks if they are erroneous. So they do that too. So they help you fight chargebacks. So V Driven is great for that, and then they also do accounting services as well. So that's basically it for the week. We do not have a prize this week, so that means there's no question. But we do have some great, exciting segments coming up with CPG Vibes. We're organizing a pitch slam, which will be great. And, we'll be part of the panel. And then we're going to have a few CPG celebrities that'll be on our panel as well. And so we'll have more information on that. We're planning to do that in the spring 2024. So if you'd like to apply for that as a brand, there are some criteria. Is it criteria? They're not plural, right? Criteria is criteria.
You nailed it.
Sweet. So there's criteria as far as qualifying to be a brand that can pitch. And you're pitching live. You're pitching in front of many, many people that are live, plus the panel. And at the end of the show, there's going to be a public voting, plus the panelists will decide who will get the prizes. And we're compiling the prizes now. There's going to be several different prizes as part of this package. So we'll talk more about that as we get closer. Besides that, Wade, what are you doing this weekend?
I think we're just hanging out. Nothing really big planned, although I would just put a small plug in for before our episode next week. I will be doing a community call with the folks from BevNet Nosh, and specifically centered around Expo West and what gets a decision maker's attention. So I think they're going to have a couple brands on. I'm going to be.
I think Danos does. They get your attention.
Right. So I'm going to be on there along with Melissa from BevNet Nosh, and looking forward to that. I believe that is next Thursday. I'm pretty sure there's a post out there that you can check that out. But I'm looking forward to doing that next week. And
nice.
Yeah. How about you?
I mean, well, tomorrow. So, well, it's kind of wet out. The Pebble Beach Pro-Am is happening right now. And it's funny, again, we're not a golf channel here, but it's been raining so much in LA and California, for that matter, Central Coast and parts of Northern California. When you watch these guys playing at Pebble Beach, which is on the Central Coast, right, of California, when the ball goes to the green, it just sticks it doesn't bounce. That's how wet the greens are. So it's funny to watch. And there was one part where Rory McIlroy hit a shot like 250 yards. It was a drive, and it just went into the ground and disappeared. And so he had to go up to the ball and like dig it out of the mud, and then he got a 1-stroke penalty or something like that because he had to dig it out, or it was ridiculous. So I'm golfing tomorrow. It's going to be a little wet. That's going to be kind of the issue. And then it's raining for 4 days straight next week in LA. So we're going to get enough rain probably to last us for the next, decade based on what's going on out here. Allison has a really great comment. What if we organize an Expo West CPG Vibes event? So we're on it. We're actually looking. I guess we can talk about No Script Just Chat, right? We can.
Yeah.
We're still in the process of finding a booth, and we want a North Hall booth, first floor, right? I think that worked out pretty well for us last year. And we're going to have a CPG Vibes happy hour. I think the best day to have it is either going to be probably either Wednesday or Thursday. I know Wade will talk about your schedule and all that, but I think Thursday is the first day that it's open, that the North Hall and the main hall are both open. So, we want to have a happy hour. We're going to serve some drinks. We're going to serve some, maybe some sponsored products from the past at this event, so we can include the whole family. And we're figuring that out. So if you are exhibiting on the first floor of the North Hall and you'd like to volunteer to have your booth be the CPG Vibes headquarters for the happy hour, let us know and we'll be there. So
right on.
There you go.
Love it. We got time to figure it out, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, do we? It's coming up fast. We said that back in early January. Well, yeah, we got time, and here we are.
But this is more of a call to order here. So I'm sure something will develop here soon.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, everyone take care. We will see you next week. Same place, same time for episode 103. And it's going to be Friday, 2:30 Pacific time, 5:30 Standard Time or Eastern Time. And Wade, you have a wonderful weekend. And everyone take good care.